Okay, we're going to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Present are council members Floyd, Frazier, Cost, Bub, and Marmee. First item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $3,231.59.
Good evening. This is reimbursement to the overtime account for 3 events. 2 were fireworks. One was Non-Butters Country Club. The other was COTC fireworks. And the 3rd event was a hazmat call-out. They received reimbursement checks from all 3, deposited those in the general fund, and they would like to reimburse their overtime account for that amount.
Motion by Floyd, second by Bub. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for disappropriation in the amount of $17,644.
There was some revenue anticipated that has been appropriated. The revenue is going to be less than originally planned, and we have gone ahead and decertified that from the County Budget Commission, so we won't be overstating our revenue. What we have to do now is disappropriate the money that had been appropriated, so we're not exceeding our appropriation authority. So that's what this is all about. It's just disappropriating from these accounts. It's an accounting issue, and basically we will be the same next month as we were last month. This won't impact anything.
Second. Motion by Floyd, second by Bub. Questions or discussion? So this is coming from the general fund in those?
Right, it was
106.
It was anticipated to come into the general fund.
Right,
And
what department?
the law director's department.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
So it was anticipated to come in. Not all of it is coming in that was estimated, so this is a difference that has to come up to us.
Very good. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes 5-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $50,000.
This is for my property maintenance department specifically. They've paid out in fire claims more than what they typically do. They want to move more money over into that account. They will get a fire check. They will get an insurance check and will pay out money. So this isn't actually giving us another $50,000. It's moving $50,000 in an account that they can then access, but it's backfilled from fire insurance claims, is what I understand.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Frazier, second by Floyd.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Frazier.
So it's kind of like a placeholder, so the expectation is there's additional payouts that are immediately needed for this $50,000, and then as those claims come in, then we'll place it back into the...
I can't say that there are immediate claims to be paid out. I can say that I don't think we'll get through the year with what we have left in the fund.
And who knows when those insurance claims are going to come in?
Correct.
That the other...
I mean, we're not going to get through the rest of the year without another fire.
Yeah.
We know that, just historically.
I might just comment, we budget what's typically happened in the past years, and when we see that budget, we see it's a 958 fund, so it's that insurance fund. We just have to have authorization where we can spend it.
Gotcha.
Before we hit our limits. I mean, like, I'm sure he's projecting that for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and then when we do get those funds in, does it go back into that same fund and then we true it up at the end of the year? Is that how we true it up, or we just wait till next year's budget?
Well, we get the money and then spend it, but understand, we didn't anticipate have to get this much money from an insurance company. Again, it has to be appropriated first before we're able to spend it, so that's what you're doing in fashion.
Okay.
It's not like a donation, but it is unexpected additional monies.
Yeah.
So we still got to appropriate that above and beyond what we did at the beginning of the year.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $501.71.
Good evening. I'm Vanessa Stallnaker, Senior Probation Officer. I'm here for Kevin Sad. This is unspent incentive money in the amount of $501.71 that we need to return to the state.
Make a motion.
Motion by Frazier, second by Floyd. Questions or discussion? Okay, so this is money that it's currently in the intergovernment.
Yeah, it's unappropriated, and we need to appropriate it to send it back to the state. Is that right? Did I say that right?
That's what I'm confused about. Steve, would it be, I mean, if it's already in there and we...
I'm not sure what the incentive thing is, but an intergovernment fund means money going to the government. So I don't know what the refunding back to the state, but basically, this is a fund to allow money to pass through other government agencies.
Okay.
So I think we're taking it out of the probation grant fund and putting it in our government fund.
It's the probation grant fund, and the account is just intergovernment fund, meaning it can go to the government.
Right, but shouldn't we be disappropriating it also from somewhere?
I don't know, is this something that hasn't been appropriated? I know what it is.
So this money came to us from
The state. It was incentive money that we
Right.
have not spent in
Right,
the last
so
fiscal year, so we need to return it.
Yeah, we usually appropriate all of that. So it's all been appropriated. And then if we need to move it to another fund, we would appropriate in that fund and disappropriate from wherever it's currently being housed. Where's it currently at?
I don't take care of the finances in our
Okay.
department. I have no idea.
There's a possibility it wasn't appropriated. I don't know, we looked this over.
Right.
Actually, we see it was disappropriated.
Okay, well,
I know what you're saying.
yeah. The thing is it's only a portion of it is what she said.
That's the
A portion
remaining,
that-
that's
Right, so that means,
it.
that tells me we've used part of it.
Yes, that's correct.
So
We had
normally-
89,000 that we received, and then this is the unspent balance.
If there's an issue with this is the kind of thing that we recognize at the end of the year, and I'm going to bring into you a laundry list of disappropriations.
Okay.
If it needs to be disappropriated, we can do it then. The one I brought you tonight, that was a more significant amount, so I think you take care of right away.
Right, that makes sense, yeah, okay. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, that motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $248.76.
Yes, I need to apologize earlier. I told you the last one was 3. It was actually 2. This is actually the third, which is $248.76 for the Mountain Country Club fireworks.
Motion by Floyd, second by Cost. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is a request for appropriation in the amount of $4,305.37.
Yes, good evening. This is just a receipt that we've received from Licking County for the second half year of property taxes that were collected in the River Road TIF area.
Second. Motion by Floyd, second by Frazier. Any questions and/or discussion?
I have a question. So is this additional income we were not expecting, or is this on target with what we had in our budget?
Well, they do collections. They bill in February of every year and then July of every year, Mark. So this is what came in from the July receipts.
But if they paid annually, then we would receive it annually.
Right.
Right.
It all depends on how they pay.
Correct.
Also, this is new, so there probably wasn't any track record there.
Right. Okay. Very good. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next item on the agenda is a request for legislation, resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
This is a housekeeping thing that we do every year. The County Budget Commission sets our tax rates, and since we have no voted millage, we receive the automatic 3 mills that cities are allowed to have. We also have an additional tenth of a mill that's for the accrued liability of the Police Department Pension Fund that the state allows millage for that. So this is something the clerk has to file by October 1st every year. So it's, like I said, something we do every year.
Second. Motion by Floyd, second by Frazier. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, this meeting stands adjourned. Next up is service.
All right, we'll call the Service Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Rath, Cost, Bub, Frazier, and Floyd. Up first, we will consider Resolution 17-60, proposing the creation of a special improvement district, Downtown Newark Special Improvement District Incorporated, along with the required petitions, the initial articles of incorporation, and the proposed plan for services for the special improvement district. I understand I received an email today from the clerk of council of Clyde saying that she did certify that 60% of the petitions needed were required, and I guess I've just been handed that as well. Mr. Rhodes, you're here to speak on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and
Speak
Mr.
away.
Chair, thank you for taking time to speak with me prior to the meeting tonight about this too. Always appreciate that because it gets a lot of questions out of the way. Let me start with a little history on special improvement districts in the downtown Newark area. This will be the second special improvement district in the downtown Newark. The first special improvement district encompassed 3 sides of the square, which would be the north side, the south side, and 3rd Street. That was put into place, I believe, for 5 years. It happened when Carol and I and Doug and a few others were on council. At that point, it was limited in scope, predominantly to pull weeds and to pick trash up. And I'd have to say, from my experience of that special improvement district, which is we had a cleaner downtown. When the city embarked upon the sewer separation project in the downtown area, one of the things that the administration began to think of, and one of the things private sector individuals began to think of is ongoing maintenance, security, snow removal, litter pickup, and maybe ambassadors being in the downtown area. So if you come downtown and you're not familiar with downtown, and somebody says, gosh, where's H.L. Jewelers? Well, there'd probably be somebody walking around in a red vest to say it's over here. And they might say, am I okay in this parking spot over there? And that person would probably say something along the lines, for 2 hours, you're fine, at that point. So we hope to have some ambassadors downtown too. The annual operating budget will be around $110,000 of this district. It is a 5-year program. At the end of 5 years, it'll have to be revoted on by the petitioners being property owners in the district. And this is not a cost to government. It is a cost that's being borne by the property owners through the assessment of additional taxes. When it came to light that there was a real push for a special improvement district in the downtown area, Newark Development Partners reached out. We hired a group by the name of Designing Local, and Shannon Fergus is here in the audience tonight if there's any real technical questions, or she's here to answer any questions somebody might have. But in your packet tonight, talks about the petitions, talks about a plan for services, and it shows the boundary lines of the district.
Okay. Any questions from the committee at this point?
I'll offer a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Bob, seconded by Frazier.
Mr. Chairman.
Floyd with a close tie.
I'd just like to say, this was presented to the Newark Downtown Association a month and a half ago, and it's something, I think with the parking is an issue, and with some other issues downtown, I think this would be a great benefit. Some of those issues will benefit people who are on the square, maybe a little more than they will people who are on Fifth Street, but still, I think overall, it gives a great improvement to the downtown area. And again, it's not of a cost to the city, it just improves the way the city looks and functions, so.
Carol, thank you, and it was presented. This has not been a hidden secret by any means. And parking enforcement will be one component of it that'll be paid for out of the funds.
With all the beautification that I see downstairs, I see a lot of pots with plants in it. I see a lot of concrete planters, I guess, that aren't yet filled and planted. I can see that being very attractive in the future. Is that going to be included as well?
The pots will be maintained through the stormwater utility as part of the overall program, but the continued beautification and other areas that can be enhanced with these dollars will be. And so, Councilman, that is part of the program on a 500-foot view. That part of this will be to keep downtown as clean and as nice, and upgrades in areas that we can.
I would hope that the business owners in that frontage area would participate as well, to some extent.
We're getting participation a couple different ways. By a buy-in of the DNA, number one. By a buy-in of the property owners, if they're not DNA members, to pay additional tax for this. So we are getting buy-in.
Before we get too far into questions, is there anybody here from the downtown? I see a couple people I don't recognize. Is there anybody here from the Downtown Newark Association or business owners or anybody in the neighborhood that has anything to say regarding this? Get that out of us. Okay, Mr. Frazier, you have questions?
Thank you. Can we talk about how nonprofits look for this? So there's a section for method of assessment, and qualifying nonprofit property owners, one that is exempt from property taxation, specifically Ohio Revised Code. And they're still allowed some level of access with the organization as well. Can you just walk me through how the nonprofits work? We have a lot of churches, a lot of nonprofits.
Yeah, the churches will not be billed.
And then for...
Let's use a nonprofit like the Works or the Midland. They would have to opt in,
Okay.
or they would not be billed.
Okay. And then like the Yes Club or organizations like that would typically be exempt as well.
It depends how they fall under
Yeah.
what category.
If I can add a couple, excuse me, just a couple pieces. If you're a nonprofit, you're not automatically exempt from property taxes, number one.
Yeah.
The Midland is because they have an educational piece, so it kind of adds a little different story. Because you're exempt from property tax doesn't mean you're exempt from the SID. But yeah, churches, as Dave said, are automatically exempt.
And that was the big one that popped out for me.
Unless they want to opt in, but they're automatically exempt.
So there's a line here that says, and maybe you could expand on this, under Exhibit A, about the fourth or fifth paragraph down, it says, the services plan will be funded by an annual assessment on property within the district of $110,148.96, plus unrestricted contributions from exempt property owners and businesses.
Some property owners will be donating additional dollars. And I'll give you an example. We sent out a 3-year letter from the Newark Development Partners, and we have 3 years' worth of contributions coming in from other property owners, not necessarily in the district, but from other areas that are unrestricted funds.
And I just got to ask, I'm sure I know the answer to this, but just for me,
Go ahead.
what about the county-owned property?
Yeah, in this particular downtown district, they've opted in.
Yeah. So they're going to contribute at the same rate that any other property owner would contribute.
That's correct.
So that would include the courthouse, that would include the county building.
That would incur the frontage that the county owns. That is correct.
Okay, so that brings up another question. As you say, that includes the frontage. Are we not assessing these properties based on their property value?
No, it's on the frontage. No, go ahead.
I was understanding.
Okay, because it might have, go ahead. Frontage is one way we've talked about it, but go ahead. That's why Shannon's here.
Well,
Technical
I have
question.
another question.
Go ahead.
Leading up to this whole issue. So please, go ahead, expand.
So we are not assessing based on frontage.
I'm sorry, before you get started.
Oh, sorry, I'm Shannon Fergus with Designing Local. We're a planning firm out of Columbus, Ohio, and we have been helping the Downtown Newark Partners with the Special Improvement District.
Thank you.
So you can assess properties in any way you choose to for a Special Improvement District. For this Special Improvement District, we did choose to assess based on property values.
Good value.
In order to create a special improvement district, you need 60% of the front footage or 75% of the square footage. So frontage is used for the petitions you have on hand to get to that 60%. Frontage is also used internally within the SID when folks are voting, for trustees and things like that. Each foot of frontage is equal to one vote. We are assessing, as you can see in there, about 7.5% of the 2016 tax values, and that is going to hold firm for each year. Instead of doing a certain percentage of taxes, we took 2016, and so each parcel will be taxed that value every year.
Regardless of whether the property value goes up or down?
Regardless, yes. The only time that would change is if a parcel is split and sold off, or as you can see in your documents, nonprofits have a threshold of up to only $3,600 that they're required to pay, and that is split between all of their holdings. If their holdings get reduced and that parcel gets sold to a for-profit entity, then we will have to redetermine the assessment for that parcel that's now for-profit.
Okay, so what initiated this conversation was whether the county properties were participating.
The
So
county.
if the county courthouse, for example, is participating, are we taking it 7.5% of the value of the county courthouse, and that's what they're paying?
That is the idea. They did not sign a petition, but they have verbally said that each year, they're not able to, the county is not able to sign a petition for multiple years. So instead, every year.
It's similar to how we do our budget here. It's year by year by year. Yes.
So the idea is that we have the numbers of the 7.5% of the taxes that the county would pay based on their market value. They obviously don't pay taxes, but we do have that market value, which is what we use to calculate that assessment. And that is what we will use to charge them each year. That is actually, when you were reading about the unrestricted funds, that is kind of what that line means. It means that anyone can give monies to the SID beyond the property owners, that the SID can accept as much money.
So I have one property owner here that sent me an email today that's raising a concern. They also happen to be a resident of the Third Ward, so I obviously have to bring this up. And it's a good point. You're assessing 7.5% of their value of their property today over 5 years' time. So pay 7.5% this year, or 7.5% next year, for 5 years, based on whatever the value of the property is today. Correct? Or 2016?
Yeah, and it's not 7.5% of their property value. It's 7.5% of their taxes, which, so you take, basically what that means is it's a millage, is what it is. So your taxable value of your property is 35% of your market value. So, and then we do 7.5, and then you take your taxes, and then we take 7.5% of those taxes. So it's adding, it's kind of like a tip. It's adding 7.5% on what your tax bill is.
Okay. Based on the value of the property.
Based on the market value of the property.
So the issue that Tim Argyle has presented to me makes sense. I think it's a valid question. When we started this downtown Newark Association, or I'm sorry, when we started the sewer separation project downtown, and we decided that we were going to go above and beyond and beautify things and put it back better and things like that. The Argyles were one of the first to buy into this. They jumped on it like right now. They took their building, they invested a significant amount of money in the building that they own. They put loft apartments in there, did a very nice job with those. They put an additional business in there, did a nice job with that. Obviously increased their income, but also significantly increased their value. So the question that they're bringing to me, and the concern that they're bringing to me, is you have property A, called the Argyle property, who jumped on the bandwagon early, invested a significant amount of money, raised the value of their property, who's paying a raised value assessment. And you have property B, who hasn't done anything because they weren't sure how this was going to turn out. And now that things are done and they see growth and whatnot, now they can invest in their property. Now they can, and perhaps they won't. Maybe they just have let their property deteriorate. They have a much lower value, but they're still going to benefit from this, but they're going to pay a much lower rate.
Jeff, let me kind of answer that in a short way, because what you're saying makes perfectly good sense. Now, if I was that property owner, I would take advantage of the 15-year abatement that exists in the downtown area on improvements. So what they would need to do is go see Mr. Motter if they haven't already, and they can file for an abatement.
Talk to me about this afterwards.
A 15-year abatement on the improvements, and that's done through Mark's department, which keeps their property value down, keeps it down to what they paid for it. But that abatement is still in the area. So if somebody embarks on a property and makes all these improvements, they do have an eligibility for an abatement for 15 years in the area. It's there on the improvements.
Can they make that retroactive?
Well, that I'd have to yield to Mark.
I mean, if he applies for example, if he applies for the abatement now, it's going to become effective for probably 2018. Yeah, we're talking about 2016 property values.
Yeah. This abatement's been around for a long time. It's not anything that people who make investments haven't been told.
Right.
I mean, it's not new.
Then I can get into the details of that later. Is it really relevant?
Right.
The abatement aspect of it, is it really relevant to this? But you understand my question. Mr. Marmee, you have a question.
Just to explain a little bit about property values and when they would increase, if you're just doing a facelift, probably not going to increase the value significantly. And even if it's just a facelift, unless there's structural type changes which require permits and things like that, the county's not going to change anything as far as what your value is. Now, if you add an elevator, then that's going to require a permit, and that is going to significantly increase. And yes, the county would change it then. But if most of it, the majority of it is just cosmetic type of things, it really does not, and it does not change the valuation that the county has until the property is sold. And if that is, that creates an increased value because cosmetically it looks better, and maybe some additional things like some flooring or something like that does not require a permit. It's usually only those things that require permits that will cause an immediate increase in property value.
Jeff,
I'm sure you'll agree that the Argyle business that I'm talking about, property that I'm talking about, as well as like 31 West and other places,
right,
are definitely talking about structural improvements.
Exactly. But here's the thing. They also probably didn't, it didn't happen in 2016. They didn't catch up. It'll be on 2017's taxes when that will start.
And that's why we did 2016's.
Right.
And not coming up on 17's.
In addition, the other thing is, most of those property owners, I mean, they are the ones that are going to benefit the most. Because they are the ones that did invest, and they're the ones that want the parking,
sure,
and they want all the additional things, so they are definitely going to benefit the most.
Good point. Mrs. Floyd.
I just wanted to mention that, there are going to be some property owners downtown who don't buy in. I mean, that's not what they want. I know there was one person at the Downtown Newark Association meeting who said his business is a block or two away from the square. He's got plenty of parking. He's not going to benefit from the parking enforcement that the square would, and so it wasn't something he saw as a benefit to him. Marcia Downs, on the other hand, said, well, I've got plenty of parking at my place, but I'm buying in because it's going to help downtown. It's going to help improve downtown, and it's going to help improve those people who go to the works and then go to the restaurants and the Midland and all that other stuff.
The one thing everybody's got to remember, this is not a governmental action. This is an action and a petition by the property owners within the district.
Well, I'm a firm believer that a rising tide raises all ships. If we have a rising tide bringing a flood of traffic into the downtown area, and it happens to go by somebody else's place that's close by that does have ample parking, it's only going to put that much more traffic by their business, which should help them, just by nature of the increased traffic flow. My own personal opinion. Mr. Frazier.
Can we talk about if somebody buys, so we put this into effect, somebody buys a property, are they assessed on the 2016 values still, or how does that work?
As long as they do not buy a parcel that has been split off from another parcel and have not, that other than a parcel being split, because if a parcel's split, it's kind of hard to go back. Let's say that happens in 2020.
I'll take 40%, you take 60%.
Yeah, exactly. But otherwise, yes, it stays with the parcel, not the owner.
Okay.
The assessment. Unless it's a nonprofit and they sell it, then we will readjust that assessment for a private property owner. Only 3 nonprofits owned enough property to hit that $3,600 threshold. So.
And I really like the 2016 rates, keeping it solid, tying it to parcel, making it consistent for budgetary for all the people that are going to be impacted. The other thing is the squiggly line on the west. Is that residential property? Is that kind of why that line was drawn that way?
That's a good question. I've heard that one before.
So the squiggly line on the west, what happened is the boundary lines are behind the parcels on the main streets.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then yes, there were residential properties, and I believe, I'm going to kind of let Dan talk about how downtown Newark kind of decided exactly how far they wanted to go on each street, but
Dan.
Dave.
Dave.
She misspoke.
Just kidding.
That's right, I misspoke earlier too. It happens.
I was hoping we had a guest speaker coming.
We
These
took
big tall
a
words, I've heard
big,
it.
we took a big, long look at this, and let's just look at Wilson Street. There's not a sewer separation or an enhancement in sidewalks proposed for that area. So we thought, why should we
Extend
capture
that.
that? Yeah, so,
Trying to keep it focused on the sewer separation project.
yeah, and then there are parcels in here that will not be affected by the sewer separation project. There are parcels. But when we looked at the boundary lines, and believe me when I say this, we just didn't grab a chalkboard and do that.
I figured there's a rhyme or reason to it.
We really looked at it, and we discussed, and we met, and we discussed, and we met, and we looked at other special improvement districts in other areas and how they do things. We met with people from Lancaster who have one. We talked with them. This has been a thing that's been in discussion 2 years, 2.5 plus years, and
A lot of time and effort.
a lot of time and effort, and we've been public about it by a presentation to the Downtown Newark Association. We've kept the leaders of council informed as it's kind of moved along. And we got smart and we hired a professional to come in and really give us good guidance. When I say we, Newark Development Partners, not the city of Newark.
Mr. Mayor?
When you talk about the squiggly line, I'll be honest, the other three sides are pretty straight lines.
Yeah.
Compared to many areas. If you think about it, State Route 16 is kind of a natural divider between commercial and residential.
The
So
railroad.
it's a straight line. There's railroad tracks to the south, a little bit, and certainly the river to the east. So it makes it look
Well,
like
the same
squiggly, but honestly, a lot of other communities, it's squiggly on all four sides.
The same argument can be made for Sixth Street. I mean, it looks like Sixth Street would make a great western border.
And you've transitioned, there's some older homes in there that are now offices. I mean, there's a little bit of a mix in there, and that's why that line kind of takes that, which is everywhere.
Any other questions?
I got one more. Oh, can we talk about next steps? So we passed this through council. What are the next steps that have to take place in order for this to be in effect?
There's a series of them, and I'm going to defer to Shannon on that.
So next steps, obviously, going through the full council meetings. Once full council has approved the service plan and the assessments, we will write a letter to the auditor telling them what to assess each parcel. We will also mail out a certified mailing to every property owner, notifying them of the assessment. At the same time, we are required to host a special meeting to elect a board of trustees for a newly created nonprofit that you have articles of incorporation for. That will happen in November because actually for SIDS, every November you're required to have your annual meeting. So this deadline actually falls right in time with that. So the special meeting and the annual meeting will be held at the same time. At that point, the Board of Trustees will be elected. The Board of Trustees can then meet in January to talk about their initial budgets, and in April and May, they will receive their first round of funding from the county auditor.
Perfect. Any other questions? I have one more question. I'm sorry, you had a question back there?
Really, just a comment. From an economic development perspective, this is really kind of a self-help for all the owners downtown, property owners downtown. Unfortunately, the city isn't able to do everything we'd like to do. We'd still like to get police and fire up to a certain limit and so forth. So we're asking property owners, do you want this? Do you want to step up and do this self-help program? And that's what we've asked, and we've got over 60% to do that. The other thing is, going back to the property owners downtown, we got a number of tools in the tool belt, the economic development tool belt. We have the CRA, the Community Reinvestment Area, like Mr. Rhodes had mentioned, that's anywhere from 12 to 15 years of 100% tax abatement on all the improvement costs that they make in their property. So we have that. We also have the Downtown Revitalization Fund, which uses our community development block grant funds that we can use to do exterior improvements, and Mr. Marby talked about how that's more of an aesthetic and doesn't necessarily affect that overall property value assessment. The other thing we have would be the state and federal historic preservation tax credits, which all within the Newark Historical District area. Those property owners can apply for those as well because they are approved since they're in that historical district. So we've got a few things in the tool belt we can use, and we do work with a number of the property owners on all three of those. So just a few comments that I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather, is that right? Shannon, I'm sorry.
That's all right, she called me Dan.
It all goes around.
Tell me before you leave. No. Shannon, one last question. I mean, there's a lot here to absorb and learn and know about. So my favorite question when I really don't know what to ask is, what should we be asking that we're not?
Ooh, I don't know. It's a hard one. What should we be asking? I think you guys really had some really good questions. I think the next step question was actually a good one, understanding what we're going to be doing with that.
Please don't inflate his ego anymore.
I appreciate it. Keep it coming.
Why we, can you think of anything?
Well,
that
let
we
me
didn't just talk about?
say this. When you guys go home tonight, you're going to go, gosh, I wish I had asked. Reach out to me, ask me. If I don't know or I'm unclear, I'll either get you the answer or I'll get you Shannon's cell number where you can call and contact and you can ask her more questions. You have a couple weeks before this will be voted on in front of full council. Take time to digest this. If you want to spend some time with myself or Shannon or Fred Ernest or some of the property owners downtown that actually support this, please feel free to take time to make the right decision. But again, this is not a cost to the taxpayers of the city.
For those who aren't for this, is there a common theme as to why?
We're probably just not wanting to pay any additional tax, I would say. But we haven't really, we haven't had anybody really jump out of the woodwork and say, no.
Well, I would expect down if they were, I would have expected to see them here tonight.
Right, as we would have.
I think I saw a hand, Ms. Marmy.
Yeah, I guess when you ask what are we not asking, how can we get out of the way to make sure that this positive happens? I mean, that's the way I look at it. Here, these people are wanting to do, this group, I don't know what to say people, this group is trying to do something to better their area. Let's not let government get in the way if they want to do something positive for our community. So, how can we help?
Well, that's a great segue into calling for a vote. Unless I hear any other questions, comments, concerns? All right. All in favor of passing this on to full council for consideration, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That goes forward 5-0. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming and sharing the information with us and answering our questions. And thank you for working with us. We look forward to great things.
Okay.
And with that, Service Committee is adjourned. Up next will be capital improvements.
So it's 6:15, and I'll call this meeting of the Capital Improvements Committee to order. Those present are myself, Lang, Hall, Rath, Mangus, and Frazier. On the agenda, we've got one resolution here, Resolution 17-61, appropriation of unappropriated balance of $335 Capital Improvements Fund in the amount of $24,497 for capital or for city building projects. Director Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the year comes to an end, each year it's a balancing act. How long do you hold on to capital improvement dollars? Are you in fear of something breaking? Is an air conditioner going to go out? So we're just about into September, and understanding the legislative process the way all of us do, we know that when this is voted on, it might almost be October, which leaves November and December. This is the remaining dollars of the capital improvement fund. These dollars are not completely spoken for at this point, but I thought we'd appropriate them. If they're not spent, what happens to them? They stay in the capital improvements fund, And next year, I would have some capital improvement dollars to add to next year's capital improvement things. So all we're doing is merely asking for an appropriation. We are going to be doing some municipal building security upgrades that have been requested by the judges. Director Baum, the mayor, and myself are currently negotiating with the judges. We do not think that all those funds are going to come from this, but some will. And but I thought, well, when we do the appropriation, let's get it all into the PO, and that way, in case we do have a heater or an air conditioner that breaks, I don't have to come here and expedite anything.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion to send this on to council.
I'll make a motion.
All second. That's okay. Motion by Rath, second by Hall. Any questions or comments? Yeah, right.
Yeah, can you give us an idea what's, I know you're negotiating, but what kind of security upgrades you're thinking and estimated cost?
Depends who you ask on estimated cost. Depends who you ask. In all fairness to the judges, this is a unique building. You have local government here as well as blended with judges that hand out sentences. And a lot of towns and a lot of cities, they separate buildings, and the judges end up with their own buildings, but we don't really have a mechanism to pay for that. So what we're looking at here is, the roll-up gate where you go underneath the city garage is currently broken. We're going to get that fixed. So the probation department, the judges, they can get in there into a secure area, come up a secure elevator, and get into the courtrooms. There was a judge that was just shot at around the Steubenville area. Mm-hmm. We're taking a look at that. We're taking a look. Now, this is nothing's etched in stone. We're taking a look at scanners. So people that come in to go to court would have to go through a scanner, not unlike what happened at the county courthouse. If you've been over the courthouse lately, for whatever reason, you enter through the basement, you go through a scanner. We're talking about whether employees would be subject to that scan or not. We're just working out the details. I'd say that the effort is ongoing. Today we met with one of the judges and the clerk of courts. When I say we, Director Baum, myself, we had Carl Hurst, who runs maintenance for the city building, just to kind of addressing all the needs, because people come in and out of a lot of different doors, a lot of different angles. So we're looking at a lot of things. If you followed what the state guy recommended for upgrades, we could spend $1.5 million. Now, that's to one extreme. We'll be far less than that. I mean, the gate closure is around $11,000. A scanner is around $49,000 or $52,000. And in all fairness to the judges too, they have a judicial fund that if there's any personnel needed, that they've offered to pay to have the personnel perform those services, not a general fund expense.
Okay, so $50,000 for a scanner is significant.
That was the first quote we had.
But that's a menial cost.
It's a menial cost.
When you take into consideration, those have to be staffed.
Right. And
it's not just something you put up in front of the door. It's got to be staffed with armed personnel.
Right. Probably 3 additional personnel would be needed. They've already hired a bailiff, and they're paying for that out of the judicial fund. That was one of the first things we negotiated, who would pay for personnel. But let me say, tonight's not the right venue to have this complete discussion, because we're not done. I'd like to say the administration and the judicial branch, we're in conversations. We have an open line of communication. We're working with both judges to a reasonable security upgrade. Reasonable. And I think Director Baum and I had a very good conversation with one of the judges today, and then I took an opportunity to meet with another judge who was still in the courtroom. His case just wouldn't end, so he couldn't get down. And so I met with him afterwards.
But I mean, it's a really nice clock for about $400.
Yeah.
Thank you. So any other questions related to the appropriation?
Mr. Rhodes?
Mr. Frazier.
Is there any other projects that are earmarked for this outside of the judiciary and that building?
Well, I'm going to hold them back. There's all kinds of needs within City Hall if you look at the flooring, but we're going to hold it back in case something breaks, because I don't want to come here and say, guys, I need to take money out of the rainy day fund. I would rather wait another 6 or 8 weeks to make sure.
The contract at the end of the year.
Yeah, to make sure we've got enough funds. I think 24,000, 30,000 hanging around for the next couple of months. You know, the pool's closed now. Some of our bigger exposures, baseball's winding down at Don Edwards. Our paving program for this year is in place, and if there's dollars left over, we can take part of these dollars and put it towards paving next year. So it's just an appropriations that we're asking for. We're going to hold on to these dollars and not run out and spend them.
And is this the last appropriation?
For capital improvements of this year, yes, it is.
Any questions from up here, audience? All right. Seeing none, I will put this to a vote to send this on to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That's 5-0. Send this on to council. And with that, the Capital Improvements Committee stands adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.